Hello, everyone, and welcome to this interview today. Do you know what? I'm going to change that. Sorry. Because I always start like as if I'm starting my podcast, and it's not a podcast. So, yes,
It's okay.
yes,
I get it. You have to change hats. Yeah.
yes,
Yes,
exactly.
I get
Right.
it.
So, let's see. Hello, everyone. Today in the studio, I have Talaya Dendy. Talaya, it is wonderful to have you here. Welcome.
Hi, einav. It is so great to be here with you today. Thank you for having me and hosting this amazing summit.
Thank you. So, let's get started and get everyone on the same page. Tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, so einav, I am a cancer doula, a board certified patient advocate, and a health and wellness coach. And my story that I'm going to share with you led me to the work that I'm doing today. So, I am also a 13-year cancer thriver, and I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma in 2011. And I say out of the blue because I was never sick before, other than the cold or the flu. And of course, because I was only going to the doctor for annual exams, preventative care, I was not a savvy healthcare consumer. And so when I got the news, I'm like, there's a huge learning curve here that I'm going to have to get up to speed with really quickly if I want to get ahead of this thing. So actually I had cancer a year before my actual diagnosis. So in 2010 I went to my primary care doctor for my annual physical, and I had noticed a small lump on the side of my neck. And I had shared that with her, but it wasn't a big deal to her. She did not ask any questions or anything. She said, "Well, you work out all the time, so it's probably just a pulled muscle." Well, needless to say, it was more than a pulled muscle. And so, in the midst of being very busy with work, stressed out with trying to climb the corporate ladder, working through family dynamics and all of those things, I put that to the side. And as an advocate today, no, no, never do that. If you are not getting the answers and the care that you need, you keep going to the next doctor. So fast forward to 2011, early 2011. I shared with my mom that this lump was still there. However, it was harder and bigger. So I knew that it was definitely something wrong. I did not expect it to be cancer. The new primary care doctor, I pointed the lump out to her, and her response was totally different. She touched it, she asked questions, and she was very concerned. I could tell by the look on her face that something wasn't right. I knew something wasn't right, but like I said, I didn't expect cancer at all. So she said to Leah, "I would like for you to get a series of tests to figure out what's going on." Well, the first test was an ultrasound of that area on my neck, and that ultrasound came back inconclusive. However, once again, I could tell that something was wrong because of how the technician, her body language, I knew something wasn't right. But of course, she could not tell me what she thought it was or anything like that. So I got the results back from that test and it came back inconclusive. Okay, on to test number two. That would be a fine needle aspiration, and that is where they take a small sample size of that area of the tissue, the cells, and determine what is going on. That came back inconclusive as well, and that is because they did not get a large enough sample size. Fast forward, another test, test number three, a biopsy of that lymph node. And so that biopsy came back as Hodgkin's lymphoma. I got the call on a Friday. I don't know what it is with Fridays and giving people the news that they have cancer, but many people that I talk with, they've gotten that news on a Friday and they're left to worry all weekend with no answers. So the nurse shared with me that I, again, was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma. I had a number of questions that unfortunately she could not answer. I was very concerned, filled with fear, because I didn't know much about cancer. All I knew was what they always show us on TV, someone who looks really frail, they're bald, they're pushing an IV pole, and, it looks like they're at the end of life. But, I started firing off all these questions, and the nurse interrupted me and said, "Honey, I know you're very concerned. I'm sorry I don't have any answers for you. But what I can tell you is that my husband had Hodgkin's lymphoma and he is doing really well today." That helped a little, but not much because I didn't have answers. And so, in an attempt to calm myself down before trying to drive home, I stopped at this store called TJ Maxx. And it's a store that I pass all the time going to and from work, and kind of walked around that store for 30 minutes just to regroup and try to figure out what I just heard, make some sense out of it. But there was no sense to be had at that time. Made it home, called my family, a few friends, and let them know. Of course, they all had questions. "Talea, what's going on? What does that mean?" I don't know. I don't know. That's all I could say. But something inside of me, my intuition, God is what it really was, who it really was, told me to ask for space. And so I asked everyone to give me the space to work through and process what I just heard. And I'm so grateful for that because that allowed me to do an emotional dump. That whole weekend, I did not go anywhere. I cried, I prayed, I was angry, all the different emotions that one feels when they get that devastating news. And I'm so grateful that I took that time because it allowed me to empty out all of those things and create space for the things that I really needed to receive to be able to start to work through this and figure out what the next step was, to reach out and make phone calls. And thankfully, that really helped me because it helped me to clear my mind. Yeah, I was very full of fear, and it's natural. But I needed to work through that so that I would not be operating and making decisions from that place of fear.
That's very, yeah. I can just imagine. I can really just imagine that weekend and how scary it was to really go home with this diagnosis and not being able to make sense of it, and also then to, of course, even though you ask for the space to look, to be able to ask for people to let you be with your emotions and fears, and trying to make sense out of all of this. um, Incredible. But I'm also excited that now, of course, you are helping other people to not have to go through this. So is Friday your busy day of the week as well? Because that's when people put the
Yes, yeah. It's either Friday or Monday because, they've gotten that call and they're like, I don't know what to do. I don't even know how to talk to my family about this. Where do I start? And so typically people reach out to me for support when they are newly diagnosed within the first, you know, 3 months of that diagnosis, because some people, they make decisions really quickly and they have the time afforded to them, and some people have the time afforded to them to kinda take their time and really figure this out. And so it's usually people within the first, 1, 2, 3, I would say, first month of their diagnosis. And then the people that are in treatment, they're usually like they would have been diagnosed 1 to 3 months before reaching out to me, and they've kinda started treatment, and they're like, I'm not getting the answers. I don't really feel good about what's happening," or they're really just struggling with treatment in general.
And then what is it that you do with them? What does that look like?
Sure. So, first of all, I would like to say that, as a cancer doula, um, it's very important for me to say this. I help transform how people diagnosed with cancer approach their cancer journey. And I use a person centered and holistic approach to help them navigate the complexities of cancer and to gain confidence and resilience and feel better making those decisions, tapping into their intuition. I fill the gap between the medical and emotional sides of cancer. What I am not is I am not a doctor. I do not provide medical support. The support that I provide is non medical. I do not give advice. I do not diagnose or treat the clients that I work with. And the information that I'm sharing today is for general, just for informational purposes, and it is not medical advice. So I have to say that first. And there's a number of things, Enav, that I do when I work with people. And, for the sake of this presentation, I really want to focus on like the power of the mind body connection. So that's where that emotional support and mindset piece comes in that I work with my clients on. And then also cultivating emotional resilience. So getting those emotions in a place where you're not acting from fear, but you're acting from a place of, hey, I'm the expert on me. I can gather information, myself or my caregiver, and we can make our decisions based on that information instead of from a place of fear and anxiety. And then I also want to just dive a little bit more into my role as a cancer doula. So, where I would like to start is with the mind body connection, because I think that's really important with getting, that emotional support and getting to a place where a person is not so fearful, which is totally understandable. And so, what I want to start off by talking about is, the impact of stress on the body. Stress and anxiety can significantly impact the body's ability to fight illnesses like cancer. And when we experience stress, our bodies release cortisol. We all know that cortisol is not good for us on a continuous basis. Yeah, if we're in a fight or flight or real threat, yes, it's great. But each day, all day, it's not helpful for us. And so, prolonged exposures to cortisol suppress our immune system, and it makes us harder for us to fight those deadly cancer cells. And how do we get past that? How do we work through that stress? And so, one thing that I really like to work on my clients with is positive thinking. And it's really important because we don't want to get stuck in a place of depression, anxiety, woe is me, because that's working against your immune system. Positive thinking, it can significantly impact your overall well-being during your cancer journey. And so when my clients focus on hope, resilience, and positive outcomes, their stress levels are reduced. And it helps to improve their mood, and we work through different coping mechanisms, and that can look different for each person. A positive mindset can also motivate clients and people with cancer to adhere to their treatment plans once they understand what those plans are and they are in agreement with those plans. And then also, I help my clients to make healthy lifestyle choices and participate in their own care. And that's where the self advocacy piece comes in. Another piece of this, Enav, is the power of positive visualization. So healing starts in the head. And I totally believe that healing starts in the head. And so positive visualization, it involves using your imagination to picture yourself healthy, whole, strong, and thriving, not just surviving, but thriving. And so, imagining yourself overcoming challenges, achieving treatment goals, and enjoying a fulfilling life can help you tap into that mind body connection. Visualization also helps to reduce anxiety, boost self confidence, and promote a sense of hope, peace, and optimism, which are all crucial for navigating your cancer journey. So, any questions on that, Enav? Anything you want me to dive more into on that?
Yeah, I guess because I know that people, it's even sometimes when they understand that it's better to connect with positive thinking and understanding how the stress is impacting the body and how it's also impacting on the ability to heal. Then there is another layer, which is really about the day-to-day fears, frustrations, disappointments, all of these things. So what are some things that people can really do to allow themselves to feel all of these feelings, but also to not dwell there and not stay in that low energy, but actually to come up or come back to a more higher energy a little bit quicker.
Yeah, so I do want to point out that when I'm explaining positive thinking and all these things, that's not saying you don't feel all the other emotions. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you don't get stuck there. And so, some tools to help you move through that are some of the tools that I've just mentioned. But what's really helpful for people as well is doing mindfulness and meditation. And so, I have guided meditations that I work with my clients on, deep breathing exercises, journaling. Those are all different things that people can do on a day to day basis to move them from that one heavy emotion to an emotion where they can, start to see light at the end of the tunnel. They can start to feel like they have hope and resilience and all those things. And so working on mindfulness and meditation practices are really important. The visualization, that's important as well. Mindful breathing, so focusing on your breath, noticing the sensations, especially when you start to have those really heavy emotions. I don't want to say they're negative emotions because all emotions are needed and they're not negative. So, doing a body scan meditation. So, scanning your body from head to toe, noticing any sensations without judgment. That helps to release the tension and increase awareness of your physical state. So, those are very important. Again, mindful movement, exercise, moving your body. So, incorporating gentle movement practices like yoga, Tai Chi, those kinds of things are all very helpful. And they are quick ways to help reduce stress and anxiety throughout the day.
And what have you noticed? I mean, because we haven't really spoken about your own journey, of how you healed from cancer. But I'm wondering, what are you noticing about the conversations with with the care team? Of people, are they professionals? Have they heard about these methods? Are they encouraging it? How are your clients? Are they feeling that they are fully supportive from all sides, or is it really when they come to talk to their oncologist and they say, I'm doing this or I'm doing that, that they get this kind of blank stares?
Well, there's two kinds of people, or two times when people reach out to me. And the first one is if they're not feeling supported. The second one is they're like, hey, I want to get ahead of this thing. I know all the different negative pieces that come with cancer, but I want to approach this a different way. And I don't really want to, get bombarded with that. And so when people come to me and they're not getting the support that they need from their healthcare team, it's really frustrating for me because I understand. And if they're not getting the support that they need from their healthcare team, that can delay their healing process. That can cause a lot of friction and more stress, which can impede their immune system. And so I think it's really important for all parties to work together. Again, I don't replace anyone on anyone's healthcare team. I am strictly there for the client, making sure that they get that human to human emotional support. Typically, when people are treated with cancer, the healthcare team is focused on the cancer. And a lot of times they overlook the person, the patient, they overlook their needs, their wants, and their desires. That's all a part of this. It's not here's what we're going to do to you. Here's what we're prescribing. Here's what you must do. And so that impacts the healing process as well if someone feels like these things are being projected onto them. And what was very helpful for me was having that relationship with my oncologist where we could have these discussions and I could say, this is what I want. How can you help me get there? This is what I want my quality of life to look like. How will the treatment that you're suggesting impact that? And so having that relationship with your healthcare team is very important. And those are some of the things that I work on with my clients as well is what questions do I ask? How do I advocate for myself? Is it okay for me to get a second opinion? Some people feel like they can't get a second opinion if they're not happy. But you don't just get a second opinion when you're not happy either. You get a second opinion all the time because one doctor may be mindful of something else that your current doctor is not aware of. And so having different opinions can help you really choose and tap into what you feel is right for you.
And that is interesting because yes, I imagine that it would be quite difficult or challenging to find this second opinion and then maybe come back to the first one if you think that this is still better, and kind of navigating the people's ego in the process. Uh,
Yeah. And that happens. That happens. And a lot of times patients are feel like they don't have a voice. Like the only thing that matters is what is said to the person in the white coat syndrome. And that's not true. I'm not saying just ignore everything that your doctors are saying, but I am saying especially if you feel in your gut, in your intuition, that there's something more, or that they're not able to fully meet your needs, or you just don't have a good connection. It is okay to seek other support and advice from a different doctor. And a good doctor will recommend that you do that.
mm. And what about, I mean, I know that some of the interviews that I had, for example, for the summit and some other research that I've been doing, listening to some books and stuff, there's so much information, and you actually need to become an expert in all of these, biology, chemistry, physics, minerals, all of these different things. So can people come to you with all of these questions? Do you have these kind of conversations with them to help them make sense of their cancer type and what really options they might have available for them?
Well, first off, I want to start off by saying I'm not an expert in all things. I am a lifelong learner. So I'm learning new things all the time, every day. But yes, people can come to me. Here's a good example, einav. Someone came to me, she had breast cancer, and she was very concerned about the recommendations that she was getting from her surgeon, her breast surgeon. She wanted to do just a lumpectomy. And so, but the doctor was recommending a um, the other one. I can't even think of the
The full
name.
breast removal.
Yes, full breast removal, yes, mastectomy, sorry. And, she was like, "I don't know about that." And so she's like, "Well, where do I start, getting information about this?" And so I started gathering information and resources for her to get the information that she needed to make an informed decision for herself. And so that looks like me sharing the information that I know from credible resources, but also connecting her with resources. There's organizations that's focus on breast surgery so that they could clearly explain to her what those options are and what one may be best for her in her situation. And so I played the advocate, the devil's advocate in a sense, by asking questions that they may not have thought about when it comes to their care. Okay, if you get a mastectomy, a mastectomy, you may be off work for 3, 4 months. I'm just throwing this out there. Everyone's different. Is that something that works for you? Do you want to take that much time away? There's a longer healing process. I- does that work for you? But then on the flip side, it's which one is more life saving? And which one are you going to be okay with? All the different side effects that come along with it, short term and long term. Are you aware of those side effects? And so making sure that they have a clear understanding of not only their options, I don't tell them what their options are. They share with me what has been discussed with them and their doctor. And then we just dig a little bit deeper. And I'm playing the devil's advocate and looking at all sides of it, not just what they've been told, but do you understand? Are there any studies on people in your similar situation? What are their survival rates if they go with this particular option. And so those are a lot of things that people don't think about when they are making treatment decisions. And so that's kind of where I come in, asking those questions, giving a different perspective, connecting them with credible resources so that they don't have to spend all their time trying to figure out where do I go? I'm getting conflicting information, all those things.
How do you also navigate? I'm sure there's situations where there are some maybe disagreement, or people are on different pages with their caregiver givers, or actually their families.
Mhm.
How do you help them people navigate these challenges?
Yeah, so actually, Enav, that's a great question. What I do is I start with the caregiver, the loved ones first in these situations, and I talk directly with them first. First of all, from someone who has experienced cancer, and then second, as an advocate for my client. And so I just share with them one on one, you know, I've been through this. Ultimately, it is the your loved one's decision. I understand that you want the best for them, but you do not want to feel like you're stripping away their power by projecting your feelings, your desires onto them. You're not the one that is experiencing cancer firsthand. Yes, you are a part of what's going on, and you are experiencing some very tough things as well, watching your loved one go through this. But it's their decision. And I understand your fears as well. And I understand that your ultimate goal is for them to survive and live and thrive, but they are the ones going through it and it's their decision. And so having that conversation, trying to take a lot of the emotion out of it from the caregiver's perspective in terms of what they want to see happen for their loved one, but also letting them know that it's important for them to advocate for their loved one and what their desires are. And so it's a fine balance. It's a very fine balance. It becomes very emotional. It becomes very tough, and it can create a lot of friction between both parties. So then what I do after I talk with the caregiver or family members, I go back to the person with cancer. Hey, this is what they're feeling. This is what they think. This is why they think that. And just trying to reduce some of those barriers so that then they can come back together and
Mm.
have those conversations because now they have a better understanding. And when I am the person in the middle, both parties are more likely to say something to me than what they would to the other party because they don't want to add more stress, hurt their feelings, cause more stress and friction, things of that nature. And so, really, I'm playing the mediator and I'm making sure that both parties are heard and understood. And I think that's the most important thing in these situations is both parties feeling heard and understood, but ultimately the caregiver, the loved ones understanding that this is their journey. You have your journey as a caregiver, but this is their journey. They are the ones who have to go through the treatment, have the surgeries, whatever that looks like, whatever they decide to do.
And so, what does, other than really, feeling that they're not getting the right care, or that maybe they have some challenges with the professional team, what are the typical things that people come to you for? Some, yeah, typical challenges that they are sharing with you.
Yeah, so some typical challenges are, self care. How do I care for myself and all these side effects that I have going on? A lot of people are not aware of, the complementary and integrative therapies that can offset the side effects of their cancer treatment. I don't tell anyone not to have traditional treatment. I don't tell them that. I help them guide them in making those decisions based on what they feel is best for them. So just talking through those things with them. So that is one reason why people would come to me. The other reason is they're looking for an advocate. They don't understand the healthcare system. They don't know how to navigate it. They don't know where to start. What are my rights? How do I communicate with my healthcare team? They're not listening to me. The other one is just getting taking care of your body. Understanding that movement. What are some things that I can do while I'm still undergoing treatment? How do I talk to my employer? I don't want to tell them exactly what's going on, but I need to tell them something. What are my rights in terms of that? So
Mm,
that may look like connecting them with employment resources and an attorney who can guide them in the right direction in terms of what can your employer legally do, what they can't legally do, what are you required to share, which it's really up to the person with cancer on what they want to share. The other part of that is kind of what we touched on just a little bit here, and that is communication. Making sure both parties come together, they understand, but then also putting together a strategy. A lot of times people say weird things when someone's diagnosed with cancer, and then that person with cancer is walking around taking that in. And so
mm,
helping them to get ahead of these conversations and determining ahead of time what they're willing to share and what they're not. And some other things are I don't understand why I'm feeling this way. Is what I'm feeling normal? Is it natural? I'm sad all the time. What do I need to do? Am I going crazy? All these different things that people experience. Um, a lot of people feel unsure of themselves about the future. Okay. Um, I'm not feeling like I want to go back to my job. Okay, let's explore some different things. What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What has changed within you? The other huge one, einav for women, is changing body images. A lot of times, women lose their hair, they lose their breast, whatever. You lose weight, you gain weight. A lot of women struggle with that. And so helping them to work through that self-doubt, that lack of confidence, and help them to understand that this is unfortunately part of the process, but that doesn't take away from who you are. And so working through those pieces of it, there's so many different areas of life that cancer impacts. And people come to me for so many different reasons.
And it sounds like you're really empowering them and really being that person that they can turn to, knowing that there's not going to be any judgment or any, you know, that you're not going to put your own opinion or fears or anything on them. It's really that support role. And that is quite incredible. So earlier we were talking about the three pillars that you offer. Did
Mhm.
we now cover all of them? I think not.
No, no. And I appreciate your questions. And excuse me, to what you just said, Enav, that's why I started this because although I had a great healthcare team, a great oncologist, and we had a great relationship, there were no resources for me. There was no one for me to talk to who understood what I was going through. And, I tried to go to a support group. I was the youngest person there. I was the only Black person there. And they were just really negative. And I had already decided that I wanted to live and I was going to get over this thing. So my cell and my bodies, we didn't want to be in that environment. We got the heck out of there. But I still had a need, enough. And I had to figure out how to fulfill that need for myself. And so I started doing research about mind body connection, mindfulness, the importance of, you know, looking within,
Mm,
working through those emotions so that they don't weigh me down and keep me still and stuck. Because I needed to be able to keep moving. I needed to be able to start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. I needed hope. And so those were things that I had to do research on and figure out and put a plan together for myself. And because I know that those things are not always readily available, and a lot of people don't even know where to start, other people need that kind of support too.
mm,
Now, just think about the people that don't have a great healthcare team. They feel stuck. They feel stuck, unseen, unheard, and they're unhappy. Those things are not conducive to a person healing.
mm. And it's interesting actually because you know I work a lot with people with chronic conditions, but I also work with people with cancer, and I can really see the difference in approach between the two people,
Mhm.
because people with cancer tend to have more of actually I'm doing this. I am there is no plan B. I am staying alive. I am surviving, and so they are generally is much more open to all of these different things, to understanding their emotions, to understanding their fears, to having conversations, to really go places that a lot of us or people with chronic pain might not immediately do. But it comes to me that actually in a very similar way, because people with cancer, I guess the efforts are more concentrated, right? It's like here it is, maybe it's a journey of 3 months or 6 months, or of course different people, different things, but it's mostly really more concentrated effort, and then okay, now maybe you are in remission and you're on with life. But with chronic pain or chronic condition, people can be with this for years and years and years. And I was just thinking that actually they will also benefit from people, like you, with really with advocating and talking about what modalities are available and what they can do. And yeah, just dawned on me that actually how much what you offer is needed for so many different people.
Mm. Thank you, Ina, for saying that. As I was sharing with you before we actually started recording, it's hard for some people to really grasp all of this because no one really talks about it. Like, okay, you have this illness, just take this pill or get this surgery, and that's it. There's a whole person
Mm-hmm.
that this is happening to, who has feelings, who has needs, who has concerns, who you cannot, you cannot just treat the thing in the person without taking care of the person. And it's so important for everyone to understand that. It's critical. No one wants to sit there and feel like they're having these things done to them. Their body is a part of who they are.
And are
There's a
you feeling
person.
exactly? But are you feeling that this is changing? Do you feel that more health teams actually starting to be more human centered, or do you feel that it's really long way away?
I will start here. It is being talked about more. However, I am noticing other places outside of the US being more progressive with it, like the UK. I
Mhm.
talk to a lot of people from the UK who are doing work in the healing space. And all they talk about some of these things just like we would talk about conventional treatment. They talk about it like it's standard.
Mhm.
And we're not there yet, but we're better than we were. In 2011, I never even heard of it. Today, I hear it here and there. Not as much as I would like to. I would like to see things like this a standard of care.
Mhm.
And when it's a standard of care, it will be covered by insurance. There won't be any barriers for people who want this kind of support. And that's the downside. My kind of work, the kind of work that you do, and a lot of us involved in this summit, it's probably not covered by insurance. It may be a good thing on one hand, but on the other hand, it creates a barrier for people who can't pay out of pocket in addition to all the other things that they have to pay for when they're getting care. If it's okay, Inav, I want to circle back to what you said about, they finish treatment and they move on. That's not, no, not in cancer anyway, because people finish treatment and they're trying to pick up the pieces. Some people don't even know who they are anymore because they feel like they've lost so much of themselves.
Mhm.
Um, and they are expected to get back to business as usual. What is that? What does that look like? Who's involved in that? A lot of people lose friends. They realize they, and I'm one of them. You wake up and you realize what's really important. It's not your job. And by the way, I don't like my job. I want to do something different. Some of the people that were in my lives before my diagnosis were toxic. They're no longer there. The things that I used to enjoy, well, maybe I can't do some of those things anymore. And so there's so much grief wrapped into it as well that people don't talk about. And so when a person finishes treatment, there's that stage of it. It's not over, it's just a different phase.
It's just the beginning, right?
Mhm.
So I'm
Mhm.
glad you mentioned it actually, because it's exactly right. There's no, after any major things, right? We're never the same people,
Mhm.
and there's definitely a period of adjustment and uncertainties, and I guess also fear, right? Because
Yeah.
especially after you've had cancer, then you think anything can bring it back, and
Yeah.
how do you. So
Mhm.
I guess this comment is very important.
Mhm. Yeah, and, speaking of that, you've been going to your doctor just about every week, every 2 weeks, you're seeing your doctor, whatever that looks like for you when you're in treatment. And you finish treatment, and all of a sudden, "Great job, we'll see you in 3 months." "What? Huh? I'm used to seeing you every week. I had that one-to-one hands-on support every week. And now if I feel this ache or whatever, what do I do?"
Mm.
And so a lot of people become hyper vigilant, hyper worried because they're like, well, I don't see my doctor for 3 months, but I have this weird thing going on. Is that cancer coming back? Or do I need to call? Who do I call? What do I do? like there's that
Mm.
additional part. And I really believe, Enav, and I know that this is not really part of our was a planned part of our discussion, but I think it's important too in the future, and I'm hoping this happens. I've heard a few small discussions about it. There needs to be a particular healthcare team or healthcare center for cancer survivors and thrivers. That care is different now.
Mhm.
The primary care physician may not know how to take care of this person now. Their care is different now. What does that look like? And so I think there needs to be specific care for people who have overcome cancer, because there's so many long-term side effects that are not talked about as a result of traditional treatment. um, and that could be depressing for people.
Yeah.
You think you're out of the blue, you went through all major these major treatments, they've impacted your body in various ways. You're still alive, but now you have this ailment that you didn't have before. Was it worth it? So there's so many so many different things that.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, to be in remission first time around, and getting back into a life that is new, and sometimes very foreign, and having all of this, the initial phase of yeah, what now and who am I, and all of this, and then of course a little bit later on, for some people when they might have a reoccurrence, and it's a very different dealing with the cancer, right? Because now they're more experienced, but again, the emotional side of things is
Mhm.
is maybe even in more turmoil than before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important to have that support there early,
Mm.
you know, if you can. And I understand there's finances involved, there's where do I turn involved, what options are available. There's so many different things involved. And but I think that when you get that diagnosis, whether it's me or someone else, try to get that support system in place as soon as possible. Even
Yeah.
if you're not sure what exactly you need, get that support piece in place as soon as possible, because there is going to be some heavy things, probably things you've never even had to deal with and think about before, that are going to come up. And just try to have someone there, preferably someone who has experienced cancer in some way, but have someone there. Don't try to do all of this by yourself. There's going to be some rough days. And, I know I started off talking about positivity and all those things. Very important, very important. But I'm also realistic. Every day is not positive.
Mhm.
And so having those tools and strategies and supports in place to hold you, to love you, to support you when you feel like you can't take another step, that is going to be the big difference in all of this. And that is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because also, if you have people, your loved ones who want to support you, that's going to be a little different because they're grieving too.
Mhm.
They're going through this too, and they're watching you go through this. They don't want to see you go through this. And so they're going to need support. So just keeping all these different things in mind. And kind of getting back to one of the other pillars, Enoch, that's where the self compassion and the resilience comes in, and it's so important to take care of yourself, do the self care activities, taking breaks if you're a caregiver. And if you're the person with cancer, taking breaks from thinking about cancer. If you can, take some time to do the things that you enjoy. If you enjoy watching movies, watch movies. Find a reason to laugh. You know, try to do the hobbies that you were doing before. Just make sure that you're not always focused on cancer and healing and treatment and all those things, because guess what? When you're doing things that you love, that is healing. That's healing. And surrounding yourself with people who really love and care about you is so important as well. Get out in nature. The sun is a blessing. The sun is healing. Hear those sounds, hear the birds, whatever it is that you enjoy in nature and that you can physically do that. That's so important. And, again, not staying too closed in, not feeling like you have to hold all these things in. Talk to someone, get the support that you need. That social and emotional support is really critical, as we've shared. And so just wanted to touch on that real quick, Enob. Did you have any other specific questions that you wanted me to address before I go to the next piece?
No, no. Let's go ahead.
Okay, okay. And so let's now talk about my role as a cancer doula a little bit more, just kind of tying it all together. And so it's about that emotional and social support, what helping you identify what your needs are. Sometimes people know that they need something, but they don't know what that is. And so that is a part of it too. Just making sure that you are helping you identify what those needs are. And even if I can't help you with those needs, I have a ton of resources where I can direct you to. And that's something that people don't have a lot of access to. No disrespect to the healthcare system, but sometimes people go, and I'm one of those people, so I can speak to this. When I needed resources, there was this sheet of paper that I got,
Mhm.
and it was the same 5 or 6 resources that they gave every patient. Well, guess what? Those didn't really apply to me and my needs. And so sometimes you have to think outside of the box. And
Mhm.
those are things that I can help you do. The other thing is building a support system when we can't meet, you know, or if you can't talk to your doctor, who are some other people? Let's get those support systems in place. People who can help you with your laundry, people who can go grocery shopping or do meal prepping for you. Um, Getting all that together and helping you figure out what tools you can use to help you better get those things in order. And the other thing that I really want to talk about and just kind of go back to is coping with the fear and uncertainty of cancer. We all experience it. It's okay to be afraid. I was afraid. Just don't get stuck there. And fear is a very natural part of the cancer journey. And journaling helped me tremendously. Getting those thoughts out, getting those feelings out.
Mhm.
But then you know what else, Ina? Writing about what I went through, and on those tough days, coming back and looking at what I wrote and saying, this was really a tough day, but guess what? I got through it. And so then that's a way to self motivate and say, I got through this really hard day. I experienced this, this, and this. Today is not that bad. I can get through today. And so just being able to have a record, a history of how strong, how resilient you really are, even on the days where you feel like, "Yeah, I can't do this," And so getting all that out, writing your own story, that is so important. And those are things that can really just kind of help you have a peace of mind. It can help with your mindset and all of those things. Um, and just having that empathy and understanding as a cancer doula is so important. If people are interested, a lot of times people say, well, what did you do? Or how did you handle this? Or what resource did you use for this? And so just being able to have that connection and being able to say, this is what I did, but it may not work for you. Please keep that in mind. Here's how I approach this. Just kind of giving them a starting point, and of course, helping them to figure out what is best for them. And then also, a lot of times, just sharing my own story and what I've done, it can really help to build up the resilience in other people so they can model that resilience and trust. That is a big part of what I do. People are trusting me to listen, to not be judgmental, to
Mhm.
not, feel like they are complaining or being negative, all those different things that a person who has not been through it may not understand. And so building that trust and letting people know that they are safe, creating that safe environment where they can share, where they can explore, where they can just let it all out without judgment, that is healing in itself. And so those are a lot of the different things that are tied into the work that I do as a cancer doula. It's not a one size fits all. It is very personalized based on what the client needs. And so I can't sit here and say that I do this, this, and this, and this for every person, because guess what? Every person's different. And that's probably why they're coming to me, because they feel like they're being put in a box with everyone else when they're not everyone else. They are who they
Yeah.
are. And so that really is a lot of what I do in a nutshell.
I think it's incredible, and I'm very grateful actually that you came here today to share a little bit about what you do and the permission that you give people to go through the journey in a way that is not necessarily negative. I mean, yeah, scary maybe, but that doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to be also suffering from other resources rather than other than what they're already going through.
Mhm.
Um, so, and I think this was also very inspirational because people do when they hear you talk and they hear you say how you help people, they can also see actually how is this for me. I mean, people that might not be working with you yet and can see that actually it is okay. It is okay to speak up. It is okay to say actually this team is not doesn't feel right to me, and so on. So really, I think the message that you're bringing that be your own advocate for whatever it is that you really need. I think it's important because not
Mhm.
everyone realizes they are they're able to or allowed to. So
Yeah.
thank
Yeah.
you for sharing all of that.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, Einav. And I don't want people to be the Talaya that I was when I was blown off. and I was walking around with cancer for a whole year.
Mm.
Don't stop when someone just says, "Oh, it's probably nothing," because you know better than anybody that it is something. You may not know exactly what it is, but your body is telling you something, and your intuition is telling you something. And when you get those feelings that something is not right, something is not right. Don't stop with, "Oh, it's probably nothing. You're too young. Oh, that doesn't fit the description." No. Keep
Yeah.
going until you get answers and you know what's really going on. It may be something, it may not. But if you keep going, you are saving your life.
Yeah.
And that's what all of this is about, is getting what you need to heal and to live. That's what it's about,
Yeah.
because you are the expert on you. Nobody's going to advocate for you the way you advocate for yourself. And if you go into these places and you show that you are willy-nilly and you're not prepared and all these things, they're going to treat you that way.
Mm.
Most of them, not all of them. So I just want people, if they don't take anything else away, you are the advocate always. You are the customer. You are the decision maker. You are the captain of this ship, which
Yeah.
is you, your health, your life. And so just be really mindful of that. You are not a victim of these things. And if you are not getting what you need, there are a whole lot of other places you can go. And I will, cancer's heavy. Cancer is a heavy thing. And I love this quote by Lena Horne. And essentially, it's not the load that breaks you down, it's the way that you carry it. And that's what all of this is about. How are
Mm.
you choosing to approach cancer? Do you have what you need? And if you don't, let's figure that out. You don't have to have all the answers, but there are people who can help you find them. And I'm one of those people. So, you know, it's about you, your quality of life. Just because you get a cancer diagnosis, I know it happens. Some people, unfortunately, do pass away, but more people are living now than ever with cancer. They're going on into remission, and they are living good quality of lives. So I think it's so important to think that way. There are
Yeah.
people that have been told that they're going to die, and they're still here 10 years later. So it's like I said in the beginning, healing starts in the mind, and God has the final say. So
Everything you said is so valid and so important, and I'm sure the people will hear it, and they will find you, because of course, I think everyone needs this really. So all of your information is going to be in your information space, and I encourage people to get in touch. But Talaya, let me just say thank you so much for being here with us today.
thank you.